Hello, welcome back to the breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a very big lineup of news that I'd like to brief you all on today. So, last night, beginning at midnight, was supposed to be the very beginning of Russian President Vladimir Putin's 3-day truce with Ukraine. This is to recognize the Victory Day parade in Moscow. We're not supposed to be seeing any attacks coming from the Russian side. And we have reports today, like from this gentleman here on your screen. This is Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha stating that Russia is still attacking. This should be no surprise to anybody, as what we just saw recently back during the Easter weekend ceasefire. Russia was still attacking along the front. Now, appears that maybe in some areas of Ukraine it is relatively quiet, but nonetheless, the Ukrainians are still reporting today that the Russians are still firing on Ukrainian positions, still launching attacks. And we also had guided aerial bombs being dropped in the Sumy region. This up in northeastern Ukraine. And unfortunately, we had a 55-year-old woman, I believe, that lost her life. 2 people being injured. Okay, and this is after the ceasefire went into effect. So we have this report here on your screen. Ukraine says Russian ceasefire is a farce. Attacks continue in Ukraine. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha accused Russia of violating its own ceasefire 734 times between midnight and midday Thursday. He called the ceasefire a farce on X. Okay, I'll actually show you guys the original statement coming out from Andriy Sybiha. Also, members of Ukraine's military reporting in several areas along the front line, Russia is still attacking. So this is not a complete ceasefire at all. And again, I'm pretty sure most people were expecting that by now, that Russia would lie about this and still continue to attack Ukraine. So we'll talk about that. We also have reports of a KAMAZ factory in the Republic of Tatarstan, probably about 1,000 kilometers or so, maybe deeper into Russia, that caught on fire. I'm not sure if this was due to Ukrainian drones, because I believe Ukraine did fly some drones into Russia last night, just prior to the ceasefire beginning at midnight. So we have reports on that. We'll talk about these strikes in Sumy that Russia carried out after the ceasefire supposedly took effect. And just numerous other things I want to update you guys on in this war. Lots of information coming out today. Let's go ahead and jump into this. We're going to start off here with Savchenko Volodymyr, Minister of Foreign Affairs Sybiha. I just spoke with Ukraine's military command, who provided information about the frontline situation. Predictably, Putin's parade ceasefire proves to be a farce. Russian forces continue to attack across the entire front line from midnight to midday. Russia committed 734 ceasefire violations and 63 assault operations, 23 of which are still ongoing, 586 attacks on our troops' positions, 464 of which used heavy weapons, 176 strikes by FPV drones, and 10 airstrikes using 16 guided aerial bombs. I mean, look at that, guys. That is not a ceasefire at all, not even close. And this is exactly what I was expecting to come out from Russia, that if anything, what we would see is kind of a quieting somewhat on the front line, but nonetheless, attacks would still continue to take place. Furthermore, it says here we are responding appropriately to all attacks and sharing all relevant information about Russia's ceasefire violations with the United States, the EU, and European partners, all other states and international organizations. We will not let Putin fool anyone when he does not even keep his own word. Ukraine remains ready for at least 30-day full ceasefire and confidence-building measures, which will enable peace negotiations and the real path to a fair and sustainable peace. So once again, Ukraine coming out and calling for a 30-day ceasefire. Let's get a real, unconditional 30-day ceasefire in place, so that way they can start to push for a sustainable peace. We've heard this from Ukraine multiple times, and that Russia just coming out repeatedly saying they want these little breaks. We know that a lot of this is due to the Victory Day parade to try to help protect their parade, and we're still waiting to see, possibly by tomorrow when this parade begins, is Ukraine going to attack it? We'll have to see what happens here. Anything could really happen in this war, but as we can see right now, according to Ukraine, attacks are still ongoing from the Russian side. Here's another report from Max24. For the first time since the beginning of Putin's so-called truce, an air alert has been declared in Ukraine. Ballistic missiles threat. The enemy is less active. There were no clashes in some directions this morning, but there were active clashes in a number of other directions. It says OSUV Kortitsia. So Kortitsias are ground forces inside of Ukraine. So basically, this is an update coming directly from the front line, okay? That in some areas, maybe it's quiet, yes, but in other areas, still clashes ongoing. The Ukrainians and the Russians are still fighting back against each other. So nonetheless, this is not a complete ceasefire from the Russians, okay? And Russia declared this themselves. Ukraine has not agreed to it. They want a 30-day ceasefire, not a 3-day truce. So Ukraine is kind of just reacting based on what Russia is doing, is what I'm understanding from this situation. Now from NOAA reports, Lieutenant of the AFU call sign Alex reports no ceasefire on the Pokrovsk front. Infantry assaults continue relentlessly with no breaks in between. The fight is ongoing. Okay, this was a report from a lieutenant of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, okay, in the Pokrovsk direction. We have reports that infantry assaults are still continuing, no breaks in between. Fighting is ongoing, is what he's stating, okay? So the attacks are still happening around Pokrovsk right now. This is down in the Donetsk region of Ukraine, southeastern Ukraine. Now from Bliskovka, soldiers of 3 units of the Armed Forces of Ukraine received an order to open fire only in response. We are talking about the military operating in the south and in Pokrovsk's direction. The soldiers received a similar order during Putin's so-called Easter truce. Okay, so the Ukrainians being ordered to stand down, but also at the same time, if they're attacked, to respond to any of these attacks. I mean, it makes sense. If Ukraine is being attacked by the Russians, why not return fire, right? They have every right to do so, to defend themselves, and that looks like that is what is going on right now. Ukrainian soldiers are ordered to stand down, but at the same time, if they're attacked, return fire on the Russians. Now from NOAA reports, the Kremlin now parroting their self-declared 3-day ceasefire, which, according to them, has now come into force. Zelensky rejected it as theater to protect their Victory Day parade. Peskov warns any non-reciprocity from Kiev will be met with force. So the Kremlin warning Ukraine, don't try to attack us or you will be met with force. And there was some unconfirmed reports yesterday. Some sources online, small mainstream news, was reporting that maybe Russia might try to fire another Oreshnik medium-range ballistic missile, similar to what we saw hitting Dnipro a few months back, into Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, if Ukraine tries to attack the parade. And possibly it could have a legitimate warhead on it as well that could cause major damage inside of Kiev. That's been a report that's been surfacing around for a little while now, ever since Dnipro was attacked, that maybe the parliament inside of Ukraine could be attacked with one of these missiles. So many sources were indicating that was possibly just propaganda coming from the Russians, so I can't completely confirm that. But there was a little bit of talk about that yesterday. But we have been hearing recently from the Kremlin, they're warning Ukraine not to attack the parade, or some sort of major response will come out of Russia, is what we're seeing, okay? Now from Max 24, over 100 flights are still delayed or canceled in Moscow airports, okay? So even today, although there is a ceasefire in effect, look at the backup of how many people are still here in the airports waiting. We'll go ahead and let this play here. Hundreds and hundreds of people still standing in line at the airports. This is how much damage Ukraine has done to the transportation system inside of Moscow just over the last 2 to 3 days, from repeated drone attacks happening pretty much all through the day and all through the night. It was forcing Moscow airports to completely shut down. Many of the airlines were just sitting across the runways, could not take off due to restrictions of drone flights in the area. So again, even still today, right before the parade begins tomorrow, hundreds of people sitting and waiting to jump on their flights. Now from Igor Sushko, Russia Ka-52 gunship helicopters are now being used to shoot down Ukrainian drones over Moscow. So even these Ka-52 Alligator helicopters now being deployed to the skies over Moscow to shoot down incoming drones and protect the parade, I'm assuming, as well. Take a look at this video. It's pretty insane.
Этот ракурс похож на вертолет, а из камеры то это не вертолет. Он пульнул что-то туда. Да. Он что-то пульнул. Этого ракурса похож на вертолет.
All right, pretty scary video. This Ka-52 Alligator helicopter flying over here above the Moscow region, and we can see some younger folks were recording this and reportedly showing here an Ukrainian drone that was shot down in the skies using this helicopter. So Russia's deploying everything they have to protect this parade right now. Now from Anton Yeroshenko, from Kiev in 3 days to reports like this. According to Moscow Telegram channels, it is very likely that all networks and communications will be turned off in the city for May 9th. Mobile operators allegedly received orders to shut off mobile internet, phone calls, and messages for at least the duration of the parade. There are also reports that city maintenance employees were given binoculars and will be looking out for drones on rooftops. Moscow police officers were given first aid kits and gas masks. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping gifted a record player to Putin. The Kremlin can use it for entertainment when there is no internet available because Putin is paranoid about his parade. So yeah, definitely a major statement here, okay? From Kiev in 3 days to reports like this. I mean, the Russians are absolutely paranoid about their parade and party being crashed upon by Ukrainian drones. Very highly likely Ukraine might attack it. I'm thinking most likely they will not. They'll probably attack other parts of Russia, if anything. But right now, it does seem like Ukraine is kind of holding restraint. They're not really attacking Russia too much. And if anything, they're kind of more on a defensive stance at the moment. So who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But maybe Ukraine is going to go ahead and attack it. But that's crazy that from the very beginning, Russia thought they were going to storm onto Kiev within 3 days. 3 years later, now they're being hammered with Ukrainian drones repeatedly every day. And I think this is going to get worse for Russia as time goes on because Ukraine is actively producing more and more drones every day. We know they're producing upwards of 2 million or more right now every year. Now from Visioner in Russia, fire has broken out of the Kamaz factory in the city of, I'm going to struggle to pronounce this, but I'll try my best, Naberezhny, Chelny, Republic of Tatarstan. It is worth noting that the drones were launched from Ukraine toward Tatarstan late at night. These were pictures coming out from this Kamaz plant, which I believe this is the same one that just caught on fire back on April 28th. There was lots of reports on X about that as well. So that was literally just, about a week and a half ago or week or so ago. This place catching on fire, now reportedly on fire again. Was it due to Ukrainian drones? Maybe. Maybe it was not. We don't really know. But this Kamaz factory is directly linked to Russia's military. And the Kamaz trucks, we talk about those from time to time. Ukraine destroys a lot of them. They're basically transport trucks that are used to transport any kind of equipment or military personnel around Russia's nation. And reportedly, this factory is on fire again. Okay, so I don't know what's going on here. Maybe there's sabotage operations on the plant, but we can see there are a pretty massive fire. Lots of smoke coming from there today. Now for Military News UA, the truce declared by Putin in honor of the victory parade began at midnight tonight. At the same time, the Ukrainian Air Force recorded 3 bombings of the Sumy region by guided bombs during the night and twice declared an air alert for air missiles in the eastern and northeastern directions. Okay, this came after the ceasefire went into effect, guys. Sumy region being hit by guided aerial bombs and air alerts being declared in multiple regions, eastern and northeastern directions of Ukraine, for possible maybe ballistic missiles incoming. It could have been for these guided aerial bombs as well. Maybe they were detecting Russian warplanes in the area. So, it's crazy. Right after this thing takes place, within hours, we're having hits already, okay? So from Ukrainian Review, this morning, Russians carried out airstrikes in Sumy region. 55-year-old woman was killed. 2 people were injured. 1 residential building was completely destroyed. 3 more civilian homes and 7 outbuildings were damaged, okay? Picture coming out from the Sumy region of Ukraine today, okay? Sumy region has been getting hit so hard. Lots of Iskander ballistic missiles strike this region of Ukraine. And this is right over the border from the Kursk region. So lots of Ukrainian military presence in this area, which is probably also why Russia is attacking it. But we can see this entire village just wiped out due to a strike of Russian aerial bombs, okay? So 55-year-old woman unfortunately losing her life, 2 people injured. And again, this came after the ceasefire reportedly was in effect. Now from the Ukrainian Review, at night, Russia dropped an aerial bomb on a 9-story building in Kostiantynivka in the Donetsk region. Currently, 12 people are known to have been injured. Okay, so right before this midnight truce went into effect as well, we also had Kostiantynivka getting hit by some bombs as well. I believe these could have been glide bombs. There was other reports talking about that, but they're saying aerial bomb here, so I'm thinking most likely a glide bomb or a guided aerial bomb also striking a high-rise building, completely collapsing and falling to pieces. 12 people unfortunately being injured, okay? These were just maybe hours or minutes prior to the truce going into effect, okay? Now from Bliskovka, the man who went on a shooting spree in Kiev region and killed several people has surrendered to police, journalists report from the scene. According to preliminary data, he was shooting with an assault rifle, but is not a military man. Okay, so there was apparently a report today inside of the Kiev region. There was somebody running around with some sort of weapon. They're saying assault rifle here, and attacking people and shooting innocent people. So I don't know exactly what this was related to. Was this related to the Russians? I don't really know yet all the details, but interesting. Mainstream media wasn't even really picking up this story. This was the only report I was finding on X, but this is reportedly from the scene. You can see lots of police officers here and SWAT teams to secure an area of Kiev where reportedly we had an active shooter situation. So very sad to see that today inside of Ukraine. Now from Max 24, Trump asked Erdogan to act as a mediator to end the war in Ukraine. The Turkish president is positive about this proposal, according to Hurriyet. Okay, so reportedly, Trump asked Erdogan, the president of Turkey, to act as a mediator to try to end this war. And we know that that Erdogan is very pro-Ukraine. So he'll probably stand with Ukraine's values here, and I think Erdogan could possibly be a good option to help mediate the end to this war. So we'll see if Turkey wants to take up that stance, but we know that Ukraine has very good ties with Turkey right now. Okay, so that's some possibly good news for Ukraine in the future. We'll see what happens there. Now from Nexa, Russia and the U.S. are discussing the possibility of resuming Russian gas supplies to Europe, according to Reuters. So here's a report today, exclusive. U.S.-Russia explore ways to restore Russian gas flows to Europe, sources say. Okay, so this is interesting because just yesterday we were reporting that Europe is thinking about ending a bunch of gas contracts with Russia within the next 2 years. Now, at the same time, the U.S. is over here negotiating, trying to resume many gas flows back to Europe. So what's going on here? Is Europe going to take Russian gas or are they not? And then some big questions is why is the U.S. mediating this? Why is Europe not doing this? I don't know what's really going to happen here. Is Europe going to start purchasing more Russian gas in the future? Are they going to cut things off? It's very back and forth right now, very flip-floppy. So who knows what's going to happen here. But let me know if you live in Europe, how do you feel about Europe purchasing Russian gas and possibly resuming supplies in the future and purchasing even more gas from Russia, even if this war comes to an end? Let me know down in the comments if you're okay with that or not. Okay, now from the Ukrainian Review, Romania and the Netherlands will create a joint center of training of Ukrainian F-16 technical personnel, according to Dutch Ministry of Defense. Okay, so this is big news now. We just heard, I think it was yesterday, the day before, that the Czech Republic was also going to be allowing Ukraine to train their pilots on their territory. Now it looks like Romania and Netherlands jumping on board and going to be doing the same thing. So this is very big. I mean, we know Ukraine does not have a huge air force right now. They don't have a whole lot of F-16 fighter jets. They do have a handful of these, but they're potentially going to be receiving a lot more of these in the future and could have a pretty sizable force. So it looks like Netherlands and Romania stepping up big to allow training on their territory for F-16 pilots. Now from next, FICO searches for a route to Russia after the Baltics closed their airspace. Reuters reports that today, Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico was looking for a way to Moscow to attend the May 9th Victory Day parade. The problem, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia closed their airspace for the flight, something Fico didn't appreciate. Serbian President Vučić solved the issue by making a big detour. He flew via Azerbaijan. Okay, so this is interesting. We heard just a few days ago that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was announcing that they could not guarantee any of the safety of any of the attendees at the Victory Day parade in Moscow. And immediately we started to hear that Serbian President Vučić and also Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico were sick, and they were like, oh, I don't think we're going to be able to make it. Well, all of a sudden, apparently they want to. This was the route that Vučić took because Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia closed off their airspace to prevent the Slovak Prime Minister and also the President of Serbia from entering into Russia. So look at the route they had to take, okay? They flew up here into the Baltic Sea, and they came back down by Azerbaijan and went through the Mediterranean Sea and went all the way around just to go to Moscow. Isn't that crazy? Just for them to attend that. And it looks like now Robert Fico is trying to figure out what he's going to do. Probably going to have to take the same exact route as the Baltic nations have closed off their airspace. Okay, so kind of funny at the same time. And we know Robert Fico, he's very upset and fuming right now, trying to figure out a way to get to Moscow. So kind of funny. Now from Visioner, Ukrainian forces have entered the settlement of Novi Put in Russia's Kursk region. Okay, so this is up in the Kursk region of Russia. We know Ukraine is still trying to attack this area. This is in the Glushkovsky district. New report today that Ukraine reportedly has entered into the village of Novi Put. This is actually a village that has been entered before by the Ukrainians. So Ukraine is still actively attacking the Kursk regions. Want to give you guys an update on that, but nothing super significant yet. Now from Max 24, China is interested in Russia signing a peace agreement with Ukraine with U.S. mediation, if only to simplify its relations with Europe, according to the Financial Times. Meanwhile, Putin has begun talks with Xi Jinping in the Kremlin. So yeah, Financial Times putting out an article today stating that China apparently is interested in Russia signing a peace agreement with Ukraine to simplify their relations with Europe and kind of gets relations back on a better footing, I guess, with Europe. So that's interesting. We'll see what happens with that. But we've got a new video here of Xi Jinping, the president of China, meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Take a look. All right, so very interesting. What happened yesterday was while Moscow was being attacked by drones, we actually had Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, showing up in Moscow. I'm surprised they even let him fly into there at the same time while the Moscow region was just under heavy attack by drones. Some days we had upwards of almost 500 drones attacking over to the Moscow region. So I have some updates on what Xi Jinping and Putin were talking about here today. They did meet and hold a conference. So now from NOAA reports, Russia and China have outlined plans to deepen cooperation with Putin, confident in the growing ties between the two nations. Yet as China aligns itself with Russia on the global stage, it's clear neutral doesn't mean non-aligned. China is increasingly complicit in Russia's war against Ukraine. So it looks like Russia and China want to build relations even further, and all at the same time while Russia's at war with Ukraine. And there's so many people that believe that Russia's not a neutral, or excuse me, that China is not a neutral state or in a neutral position in this war, that they're actually helping out the Russians to fight this war, possibly sending equipment that is used to build weapons or anything like that to fight against the Ukrainians. So apparently the Chinese and Russia are going to be heavily working together in the future. So you guys let me know what you think about that. Is that good or bad news? Now for Max 24, Russian drone strike caused tens of millions worth of damage to Chernobyl. The Guardian reported today, attack damage 1.5 billion euros containment structure over nuclear reactor with repair costs likely to be borne by Western governments. The attack punctured a 15 square meter hole in the outer roof. Okay, so if you guys remember this report, this was a few months back. Russian drone strike caused tens of millions worth of damage to Chernobyl. Exclusive attack damage a 1.5 billion containment structure over a nuclear reactor with repair costs likely be borne by Western governments. So apparently the West is going to have to repair this thing, and it caused some pretty extensive damage. We had a drone attack on this containment structure that protects one of the nuclear reactors that exploded a long time ago at Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Apparently, they're going to have to maybe even replace this thing completely. We've been hearing that this active containment structure is not even really working anymore now that it's been damaged by the Russians. So pretty insane what Russia's been doing to Ukraine. Now for more translated, the U.S. Secretary of Treasury, when asked directly whether he considers Putin a war criminal, replied yes. Well, it's at least something. So I showed you guys this report yesterday from the U.S. Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. He's going to be speaking to Mr. Vargas here, and he's going to be asked if Putin is a war criminal, and he basically agrees to that. So go ahead and take a look at what he has to say here.
For asking the question about Russia, do you consider Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
Yes.
Would you negotiate with a war criminal?
I think that's the nature of diplomacy. One must negotiate with both sides, sir.
So you will be negotiating then with the war criminal?
I believe that negotiation that was needed with the Japanese after World War II.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. Are you familiar with what we're asking the question about?
All right, so let me know what you guys think on this. Do you guys think that the Trump administration is doing a 180 now, standing more on the side of Ukraine? Is this possibly an indicator that maybe Russia's going to be slammed with sanctions here very soon? Because the rhetoric and tone that's coming out from the Trump administration now is completely different from how things were just about a month ago. So you guys let me know what you think on that. We did do a whole video on this yesterday, but I wanted to show you guys the actual clip that finally came out today, as yesterday there was no clip. So now for Max 24. Results of another strike on the Shekhovka Strategic Aviation Airfield, according to Cyber Boroshno. Number 1, destruction of the technical room for maintenance and preparation of KH-22 missiles. Number 2, fires in the area of the airfield fuel station. Number 3, damage and burning of fuel tanks. Okay, so we've got some satellite imagery reportedly showing damage to the Shekhovka Strategic Aviation Airfield. This was an airfield that was attacked just yesterday night, and we didn't have much information yet. All we heard was that 2 airfields reportedly were targeted up near the Moscow region, as that's when we had about close to 500 drones, maybe more. Who knows really how many were actually fired into Russia, but it's kind of showing some damage to some of the tanks over here. So allegedly, we had a maintenance and preparation room of KH-22 missiles that was destroyed, and fires in the area with a fuel station apparently and fuel tanks also catching on fire. These were some of the NASA firms maps that were coming out showing the fires that broke out at this airfield. So allegedly we had some pretty big hits over here according to this information. Okay, so those are some updates on that strike from yesterday. Now from Noel Report, Zelensky on the global meaning of Ukraine's fight against Russia. If a criminal like Russia can't defeat Ukraine, then any criminal can be beaten. That's the global message of this war happening here and now in Europe. So Zelensky coming out yesterday actually and stating this. This is a very big statement from him, basically saying that, Russia's a criminal for what they're doing to Ukraine. And if Ukraine can stand up against Russia, then any other country can defeat Russia as well. It's basically what he's stating. So that was a huge statement from him just yesterday. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Now from Nexta, the deal is on. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine has approved the ratification of an agreement with the United States on cooperation in the extraction of use of mineral resources. The bill was supported by 338 deputies with no votes against or abstentions. 9 deputies did not vote. The agreement provides for joint development of strategic resources, attracting investment, and introducing new technologies into Ukraine's mining sector. So this is from the Verkhovna Rada, okay, this is their parliament in Ukraine. They have now approved this whole minerals deal, okay? 338 votes yes, no votes against it, and looks like 9 chose to not vote. You can see here on the board, okay? So this was a picture also coming out from their parliament after they officially approved the ratification of this agreement, okay? So it is now into effect with Ukraine with the whole minerals deal, okay? So that is completely done. Now from Bliskovka, Ukraine has received another 1 billion euros from the EU, including proceeds from frozen Russian money sources, Ukrainian Prime Minister Shmyhal said. Okay, so Denis Shmyhal today, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, stating they got another 1 billion euros from the EU, okay, from frozen Russian assets. That's very big news today. More income for Ukraine. Now from Max 24, tomorrow the EU will provide Ukraine with 1 billion euros to produce its own weapons, according to Kaja Kallis. Okay, so that's very big as well. So the EU is going to be also providing Ukraine with another 1 billion euros to produce more weapons inside of their nation. That's going to help out their own defense industry inside of Ukraine. Okay, so that is very, very big news today from the EU. Huge support. Now from Max 24, Trump, I will be speaking to Zelensky soon. Okay, this apparently came out today as well. Trump stated that he's going to be speaking to Volodymyr Zelensky again, probably over the phone like you see here in the photo. So we'll see what comes from that. I'm not sure what he wants to discuss with him, but looks like they will be holding some sort of phone call here very soon. Now from Noel Reports, Ukraine shot down 20 Shahed drones and 6 decoy UAVs during Russia's third attack wave on May 7th from 14:30 hours to 20:30 hours, launched from Milerovo, Russia. All targets failed to hit. Decoys were lost without consequences. Okay, so only about 20 drones from Russia coming into Ukraine last night. Not nearly as many as we have seen. So Again, Russia's still attacking, much less inside of Ukraine, but not complete ceasefire is what we're seeing here. Now, this did take place before the ceasefire went into effect. Only 20 drones, much less than normal, but nonetheless still attacks on Ukraine last night. Now, from the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of May 8th, according to the armed forces of Ukraine. And our final update of the day, Russia's losses as of May 8th, 1,200 troops, 10 AFVs, 120 vehicles and fuel tanks, 2 tanks, 50 artillery systems, 141 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and 2 special equipment. Okay, so lots more being destroyed today from what I'm seeing here than what we normally see, but still about average for the most part, 1,200 troops, 10 AFVs and tanks. These are still a little bit normal than what we have been seeing. Vehicles and fuel tanks about average. Artillery system still about average as well, but we did have an MLRS system and also an anti-aircraft warfare system being destroyed, 2 special equipment. So a little bit more on this side than what we're normally seeing, but still right about average overall. Okay, guys, so big update today coming out from Ukraine. Let's see what happens here over the next 24 hours. The big question, is Ukraine going to target the parade tomorrow? We'll see, you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, but that's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoyed my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.